Welcome to the Simplify Your Life podcast. It's Coach Simona, and I'm glad you decided to tune in. Hey everyone! In today's podcast episode, we're going to talk about how to be unapologetically yourself and not care what others think. And I'm going to share with you 3 in-depth tips on how to show your true self to the world. We're also going to dive deep into the 5 possible wounds that are holding you back from being unapologetically you. And I have a very special announcement, but first let me introduce myself. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Simona, certified life coach and author of the book 111 Ways to Simplify Your Life. I make weekly podcast episodes on personal development. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure to subscribe. Now, before we get into my tips on how to be unapologetically yourself, I have a very special announcement to make. My signature online program is opening for enrollment in the beginning of May. Yup, that's less than a month, and I'm so excited to share with you everything that I have in store for you. If you want to be the first to know when it launches, head over to coachsimona.com/waitlist, or stay by the end of this episode where I'll share with you more details. Alright, now let's jump straight into my first tip on how to be unapologetically yourself and stop caring what others think. Understand what's holding you back. Seems like a no-brainer, right? Well, the truth is, it may be more complicated than you think. Sure, there are superficial reasons that we may attribute to our inability to show up as our most authentic selves, but the truth is that there are 5 underlying fears that are holding you back from being unapologetically you. I was first introduced to this concept by Liz Burble many years ago, and I would love to share it with you. The first possible reason for not being who you really are is fear of rejection. This one's the deepest and the earliest one to form our psyche. When we're still infants and we sense that we're unwanted by our caretakers, or we live in a hostile environment that prevents us from feeling safe, we start developing this fear. It's like we don't have the right to exist in the world. When you feel rejection as an adult, that can show up in many forms. You may feel inadequate, weird, awkward, and prefer to stay silent when you need to speak up. The thing is, fear of rejection can only be healed once you learn how to forgive anyone who knowingly or unknowingly hurt you, and work on becoming comfortable in your own skin. The second possible reason for not being unapologetically yourself is fear of abandonment. This is the second trauma that leads to not feeling comfortable with sharing your true self with the world. I've never publicly shared this before, but this was my trauma, and it took a lot of work to get where I am now. So how does fear of abandonment form? It usually happens when we fear that our caretakers will leave us or don't pay enough attention to us. It may have something to do with the death of a parent or someone who constantly works and has no time for us. When you fear abandonment as an adult, that can show up in one of the following forms. You may be too afraid to get into a relationship because you fear what's going to happen if this person decides to leave you. Or you may be too scared to stand up for yourself because you're afraid that the people you care about will abandon you once they see your true self. Fear of abandonment can only be healed once you learn how to enjoy your own company and trust yourself to take care of your own emotional needs. If this sounds anything like you, listen to episode 38 next. I will leave a link below. The third possible reason for not showing up as your most authentic self is fear of humiliation. It forms when we're criticized or punished by our primary caretakers. We feel shame, guilt, and are constantly trying to please our family because we feel like we don't deserve love if we don't. When we fear that we're going to get humiliated again, we reject certain parts of ourselves that may seem bad or unacceptable. When you fear humiliation as an adult, that can show up in many forms. You may be too ashamed to admit what you want, or you may engage in activities that you're not proud of because you're subconsciously trying to punish yourself for being bad, or it may manifest as a constant need to people please and be good no matter how other people treat you. Fear of humiliation can only be healed once you learn how to accept every aspect of yourself and understand that we all have good and bad traits, and that's the beauty of being human. We're all doing the best that we can, and that's okay. The fourth possible reason for not being unapologetically yourself right now is fear of betrayal. That's my second trauma, and it's closely related to fear of abandonment. Here's how it all happens. When we're young, our primary caretakers are our entire world. We look up to them. We look for support, love, and affection. And when they do something that deeply hurts us, such as not keeping their promises, lying to us, or using us, they betray our trust. To someone who is 4 years old, that's simply unacceptable. And what do? We shut down and promise that we'll never trust anyone ever again. When you fear betrayal as an adult, that can show up in one of the following forms. You may be suspicious of everyone's intentions. You may expect the worst from the people you love. Or you may try to control everyone and everything to avoid the pain of being hurt again. These control freak tendencies can even turn into an obsession if you don't pay close attention to them. Fear of betrayal can only be healed once you forgive the person who hurt you the most and stop expecting the worst from people. You would be surprised to find out that trusting others is actually deeply connected to self-trust. So if this sounds like you, listen to episode 124 next. I will leave a link below. And the last possible reason for not showing your true self to the world is fear of injustice. This one's closely related to perfectionism, as we strive to do things the right way and feel like we need to be the best and excel at everything. And the only way to receive love is to achieve something. We feel judgmental towards others and afraid of failure. Because growing up, we thought that making mistakes meant being wrong, and being wrong led to being discarded and unloved. When you fear injustice as an adult, that can show up in many forms. You may be pushing yourself too hard. You may be in constant conflict with your loved ones because you just can't stand how irresponsible or unfair they are. You may try to fix them, only to find out that they don't need to be fixed. And neither do you. I struggled with this one quite a lot as well. The only way to heal fear of injustice is to let go of the need to be right and accept that we all make mistakes. And that's okay. I actually dive deeper into all of these fears and how to overcome them in the first module of my signature online program for women. This is just a small portion of everything you're going to learn about yourself, on how to become abundantly confident by being unapologetically yourself. So if you haven't signed up for the waitlist, I highly encourage you to do so, as enrollment will only be open for 2 weeks. So, if you want to learn more about the program and join the waitlist, head over to coachsimona.com/waitlist. My second tip is to forgive yourself and forgive all the people who have hurt you. There is a huge misconception that I've seen when it comes to forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about the other person, it's about you. Forgiveness forces you to go back and see the painful situation with a new set of eyes. Is it painful? Yes. But there's no other way to move on from it unless you forgive. One of the stories that really stuck with me was about a woman who spent her entire life being mad at her father for leaving her when she was a child. She was so bitter, so unhappy, that her hatred led to 50 years of her life completely wasted. Her father was long gone before she realized that she was still harboring all of these negative feelings. She missed the opportunity to get to know her children better, to have a better relationship with her husband, or maybe even reconciled with her father, just because she was fueled by hate. The irony is that she was so preoccupied with the story about her father leaving that she wasted almost her entire life ruminating over the past. The thing about the past is it's already gone. Do I think that there are some unacceptable, despicable acts that don't deserve forgiveness? Of course I do. But once again, forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about you. The important thing is to realize that by forgiving someone, you're not saying, what you did to me was okay and I accept it. You're simply saying, okay, this happened, but I'm ready to move on from it and not let it define my entire life. And while it's difficult to forgive someone who hurt you, sometimes it may be even more difficult to forgive yourself. So here's the first thing I recommend you do. Take a day off from everything and everyone. Spend some time with yourself and be present with all the feelings you've been harboring throughout the years. You may have blamed yourself for not defending yourself against some form of physical or emotional abuse, or for not standing up for yourself, or for abandoning yourself when you needed yourself the most. No matter what it is, spend some time to find the strength to forgive yourself and stop punishing yourself for past mistakes. Which actually leads me to tip number 3. Develop self-compassion. Developing self-compassion doesn't happen overnight. It's all about making better choices for yourself every day, putting yourself first, acknowledging what you need, and taking good care of yourself. In my practice so far, I have found out that lack of self-compassion is directly linked to not being unapologetically yourself. When you're not compassionate with yourself, you're showing yourself that you cannot be trusted. And that's a big problem in the long run. Because if you can't be honest with yourself, how can you show up as your most authentic self out there when you communicate with others? So my tip here when it comes to developing self-compassion is to allow yourself to be vulnerable. Next time you feel like crying, don't stuff it in with binging Netflix. Let it all out. Or next time you're too hard on yourself because you failed at work, be kind and gentle with yourself. Choose kindness over criticism and humility over pride. Lack of self-compassion often leads to pushing yourself way too hard and burning out. So if that's something that you've struggled with, make sure to watch my video on how to recover from burnout at youtube.com/Coach Simona. And if you're excited for the 90-day unapologetic transformation from self-doubt to unshakable self-confidence, head over to coachsimona.com/waitlist. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like it. And subscribe to my channel if you don't want to miss out on my weekly podcast episodes. I'm sending you all my love, and I'll talk to you in the next one.